Chief Seats Mark is served, so if you'd like to sit any of those chairs.
Did you ever find
I'd first like to thank the supervisor and the Town of Fishkill for hosting this wonderful event today to honor our heroes. Years ago I got to meet Mr. Rocco, who took a great role in recognizing the Mount Beacon 8, and I said, wow, how fortunate we are to have a resident like this in our town. He lives in Yorktown, and he's done a great job recognizing our local heroes. So thank you for offering me the opportunity to read this proclamation. Whereas the history of the town of Fishkill is a history of service to America, dating from its critical role in the American Revolution to the present day, and whereas the town of Fishkill has a proud legacy of military service by a multitude of brave sons and daughters who have served in uniform since our nation's infancy. And whereas the town of Fishkill desires to recognize those men and women who have shown the fullness of their devotion to our nation through service and sacrifice. And whereas on September 14, 1935, a Navy Helldiver biplane crashed into Mount Beacon, killing 2 service members. And whereas on November 11, 1945, a Navy Beechcraft airplane crashed into Mount Beacon, killing 6 service members. And whereas the 8 service members killed in these accidents are known today as the Mount Beacon 8. And whereas Aviation Machinist Mate 3rd Class Clarence Hooper was killed in the accident on November 11, 1945, and is one of the Mount Beacon 8. And whereas Aviation Machinist Mate 3rd Class Clarence Hooper left behind a family, including daughter Patricia Hooper Wiggins. And whereas the town of Fishkill held a ceremony on November 7, 2020 to observe the 75th anniversary of the accident, which killed 6 service members, including Aviation Machinist Mate 3rd Class Clarence Hooper. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Fishkill does hereby proclaim its deep and eternal gratitude to the courage, service, and sacrifice of Aviation Machinist Mate 3rd Class Clarence Hooper, and be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Fishkill shall present this proclamation to Patricia Hooper Wiggins on the 7th day of November in the year 2020 in deepest appreciation of her father, Aviation Machinist Mate 3rd Class Clarence Hooper. Now I understand that Mrs. Hooper Wiggins lives in Virginia, so is not able to be with us today, but I know that Mr. Rocco will present this to her on behalf of the town. So thank you again, David.
It is a privilege to be with you all today. Okay. All right, thank you. It is a privilege to be here with all today. This is my first year in office, and it's been a year of unprecedented challenge for families, for towns and counties and states across the country and around the globe. While we continue to live with the effects of COVID-19 in our area and beyond, we are reminded every day of the incredible strength and character of our community here in Fishkill and all of Dutchess County. The strength of the character brings us here today to honor 3 men who embody the very best of our American values of service and sacrifice. This event dates back to an earlier idea earlier this year. We had to think different to honor our fallen soldiers because COVID prevented traditional Memorial Day observances. I decided to honor these 3 Fishkill residents killed in Vietnam. The town produced a memorial video which was shared on our website and social media. The town also wrote a request to the county for roads to be dedicated in their memory. I'm delighted the county has accepted our request. I'd like to take a moment and recognize County Legislators Nick Page, Fritz Stenerke, and Doug McCool, Legislator Chairman Greg Pulver, Assistant County Executive Chris Baiano, and of course County Executive Marcus Molinaro. I'll be turning things over to the County Executive in a moment, but I'd like to remind everyone of the courage and honor these 3 heroes showed in their service to the nation. First, Michael Garlo, Private First Class, United States Marine Corps. PFC Garlo was born on October 12, 1948 and grew up on Charlotte Road off of Osborne Hill Road. He enlisted in the Marines at the age of 19 in July of 1968 and became a machine gunner with the 3rd Marine Division, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines. He was deployed to Vietnam in April of 1969 and was killed in action by an enemy hand grenade near Garlow Airfield on August 20th, 1969. PFC Garlo was awarded the Purple Heart and lies buried at Arlington Cemetery. He was 20 years old. Richard Robert Smith, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Smith was born in the town of Fishkill and grew up on Old Grange Road. He attended Royce C. Ketchum Senior High School and graduated in 1965 before enlisting in the Marines. Corporal Smith also served with the 3rd Marine Division as a tanker in the 3rd Tank Battalion C Company. He was deployed to Vietnam and served in the Tu Thanh province on August 16, 1967 near Phong Dinh. His tank detonated a 500-pound bomb which had been rigged as a landmine. Corporal Smith and his crewmates were killed instantly. Corporal Smith was awarded the Purple Heart and rests at the Fishkill Rural Cemetery. Richard Smith was 20 years old. Lastly, we honor 2nd Lieutenant Robert Bruce, United States Army. Lieutenant Bruce was born September 7, 1944, and grew up off Shirley Avenue in the village and graduated from R.C. Ketchum High School in 1962. Lieutenant Bruce enlisted in the Army Reserves and rose to the rank of 2nd Lieutenant before being called to active duty and serving with the 1st Cavalry Division, commonly known as the 1st Team, one of the most decorated units in the United States Armed Forces, when he served as an infantryman unit commander. Lieutenant Bruce was deployed in the Tay Ninh province of Vietnam on September 3, 1969. 10 days later, his unit was ambushed in thick jungle, and Lieutenant Bruce was killed as his unit withdrew. Lieutenant Bruce was awarded the Silver Star for gallantry, and I'd like to read the citation for you. 2nd Lieutenant Bruce distinguished himself by exceptionally valorous actions on 13 September 1969 while serving as a platoon leader during a mission in a thick jungle area of the Tay Ninh province. The advance element of his company was hit by an enemy force of unknown size, and several members of his element were seriously wounded. Lieutenant Bruce, with complete disregard for his own personal safety, rushed forward, picked up the machine gun from his wounded gunner, and began laying down a heavy volume of suppressive fire, enabling the wounded to be treated and evacuated. As the last man was being pulled back to a secure area, the enemy suddenly launched a determined assault toward the advance element, and Lieutenant Bruce was mortally wounded. His intrepid efforts aided in saving the lives of his fellow comrades and was essential in repelling the enemy forces. 2nd Lieutenant Bruce's gallantry, personal bravery, and devotion to duty were in keeping with the highest tradition of military service. These 3 men merit our respect, our remembrance, our eternal gratitude. What we do today cannot possibly repay the sacrifice they made. We owe a great not only to these 3 men, but to the families and loved ones that they left behind to serve our nation. With that in mind, I would like to invite Mr. William Smith, brother of Corporal Smith, to come to the podium along with Assemblyman Waller and accept this proclamation of gratitude on the behalf of the town of Fishkill.
Whereas the town of Fishkill desires to recognize those men and women who have shown the fullness of their devotion to our nation through service and sacrifice. And whereas Richard Robert Smith was a Fishkill native born on October 19, 1946. And whereas Richard Robert Smith served our nation with dignity and pride as a Lance Corporal in the 3rd Marine Division, 3rd Tank Battalion, Charlie Company. And whereas Lance Corporal Richard Robert Smith was deployed and served in combat in Vietnam, where he was killed in action on August 16, 1967, and was awarded the Purple Heart. And whereas Lance Corporal Richard Robert Smith left behind a loving family, including his brother, William Smith. And whereas William Smith continues to live in Fishkill to this day. And whereas on the 7th day of November, in the year 2020, Dutchess County Route 34, Baxtertown Road, was dedicated in the memory of Lance Corporal Richard Robert Smith. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Fishkill does hereby proclaim its deep and eternal gratitude to the courage, service, and sacrifice of Lance Corporal Robert Smith. And be it further resolved, the dedication of Dutchess County Route 34, Baxtertown Road, shall forever serve as a public expression of the heartfelt thanks of a grateful community for the life and service of Lance Corporal Richard Robert Smith. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Fishkill shall present this proclamation to William Smith on the 7th day of November in the year 2020 in deepest appreciation to his brother, Lance Corporal Richard Robert Smith.
Few words, but I can't tell you how much this means. This means so much to me, and I thank everybody that's here and showed up to remember my brother and the other 2 that paid the ultimate sacrifice and to lay down their lives. And it's not only the service members, but also I want to thank everybody that serves, the police department here, fire department, everybody that every day has to possibly be in a position where they might have to lay down their lives or put their lives in danger too. And everybody needs respect. But the thing that means so much to me on this, and I've been telling a couple of people here today, is that the dedication of Baxtertown Road means a lot to me, because you know, when my father was sick, he was a disabled veteran too. He was 98% disabled, and he was in Castle Point. I had to drive down Baxtertown Road every single day going to Castle Point Hospital. And that road has a lot of significance to me and a lot of meaning and sentimental value to me. And I never even realized that that road was going to be dedicated to my brother. And that has enormous sentimental value to me. And I just thank everybody for showing up and just remembering people that have, you know, they've been forgotten, and a lot of the veterans have been forgotten, and it's amazing. And what can I say but thank you for everything. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the county executive for helping me put this together. I also have a proclamation for him. Whereas the history of the town of Fishkill is a history of service to America dating from its critical role in the American Revolution to the present day, and whereas the town of Fishkill has a proud legacy of military service by multiple of brave sons and daughters who have served in uniform since our nation's infancy, and whereas the town of Fishkill desires to recognize those men and women who have shown their fullness to devotion of our nation through service and sacrifice, and whereas Dutchess County shares Fishkill's pride in the county's magnificent legacy and service to our nation, and shares Fishkill's desire to recognize those who serve with courage and dignity, and whereas the town of Fishkill requested that Dutchess County dedicate 3 county routes in the town of Fishkill in memory of 3 Fishkill service members killed in Vietnam, and whereas County Executive Marcus J. Molinaro has issued an executive order dedicating County Route 34 Baxtertown Road in the memory of Lance Corporal Richard Smith, and whereas County Executive Marcus J. Molinaro has issued an executive order dedicating County Route 35 Osborne Hill Road in memory of Private First Class Michael Garlo, and whereas County Executive J. Marcus Molinaro has issued an executive order dedicating Route 36 Red Schoolhouse Road in the memory of Second Lieutenant Robert Bruce. Now therefore be resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Fishkill does hereby proclaim its deepest thanks to Dutchess County Executive Marcus J. Molinaro for his actions honoring Fishkill service members and their legacy of sacrifice, and be it further resolved, the dedication of these Dutchess County routes shall be cherished by the Fishkill community for the honor it bestows upon those who represented in the town with dignity and courage, and be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Fishkill shall present this proclamation to Dutchess County Executive Marcus J. Molinaro on the 7th day of November in the year 2020.
Morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Make sure you can hear me. Is that working? Great. Days like this are always tough. I always think about my dad, and I always think about all the people who served and never came back, which was the only thing he ever said about his own military service. But I want to thank the town of Fishkill. I want to thank my friend Marcus Molinaro. I don't try to be as eloquent as Marcus, but I do try to be brief. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I didn't bring a proclamation for you either, Marcus. I hope you're not upset. No, we do a lot of good work together, and you got a great county executive, and I'm always proud to be with him. And Assemblyman Lawler, thank you, sir, and thank you for your service, and to your county legislators, to the American Legion, to our police. Supervisor Alba, thank you for letting me join your ceremony today, and especially Mr. Smith, and to all of our Gold Star families. Thank you, sir, for your beautiful words. Well, I don't want to give you a speech, but I am proud to join you in honoring Pilot Lincoln Denton, aviation machinist May Clinton Hart, and of course Dixie Kiefer, Lloyd Heinzen, Hans Kohler, Dr. Zielinski, David Wood, Clarence Hooper, and especially the 3 servicemen for whom we are naming these roads today. I like to say their names so that people know they were
real people with real families who loved and were loved in return. Private First Class Michael Garlo, Lance Corporal Richard R. Smith, Second Lieutenant Robert Bruce, who gave their lives in Vietnam. You know, the county executive mentioned Dixie Kiefer. My dad was a Navy guy. He got banged up on the USS Manchester. He loved stories about the Navy. He never talked about his own service, but he loved stories. He watched all the only movies he watched were war movies, and he loved all that. And I'm a little embarrassed to say I had heard of Dixie Kiefer, but I didn't know all the details. And what the county executive didn't tell you, and I think it's worth thinking about because it just shows you the kind of people who serve us. Dixie Kiefer was born in Idaho, but he entered the Naval Academy in 1915. Now that may seem like ancient history to some folks, but his first assignment was on the USS Corona, a small anti-aircraft submarine patrol vessel, and he served in World War I. But he became famous on the 11th of November 1924 for the first ever night takeoff from a warship. He was a naval aviator. First time it had ever been done, and his plane, a Vought U-01, was launched by catapult into the night off of the USS California with only the searchlights from the ship to illuminate his flight. Imagine the courage that took. But when he became a commander and then later executive officer of the USS Yorktown, he was served in the Battle of Coral Sea, served in the Battle of Midway. He received the Distinguished Service Medal for an incident when the Yorktown was sunk at Midway, and he shattered his right leg and ankle while leaping from the ship. But that's not all this extraordinary individual endured, because after recovering from his injuries, he was promoted to captain and given command of the USS Ticonderoga. And on the 21st of January 1945, Ticonderoga was hit by 2 Japanese kamikaze bombers. 144 men were killed and another 200 injured. And the first kamikaze to hit the ship caught fire and was burning on the deck. And Kiefer had the idea to have the port side compartment deliberately flooded to put a 10-degree angle on the ship and roll the wreckage off the vessel, a maneuver that had never been done before. But a second kamikaze plane hit the same ship, the Ticonderoga, later that day. This one injured Kiefer with 65 wounds from bomb shrapnel. He had a broken arm and yet remained in command for the next 11 hours. Leaving only when it was reported that all the other injured had been treated. He received the Distinguished Service Medal from the Secretary of the Navy. As the county executive mentioned, James Forrestal, who coined the term the indestructible man. Indeed. And he had not yet recovered from those injuries when he was killed in the crash we commemorate today on the 11th of November 1945, right here up the road in Beacon. They say he was the most battered officer in the U.S. Navy. And his crew used to joke that he had so much metal in him that the ship's compass would follow him when he walked past it. And he is buried in Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. So I tell you that story because it typifies, I think, the service and heroism, the extraordinary sacrifice, the pain, the willingness to serve even when hurt, that should inspire us all. And at a time when our country is so divided and yet doing the hard work of democracy, it's so important to remember the things that unite us, which must remain stronger than those that divide us. Because when you think about what it took for a man like Dixie Kiefer to do what he did, and men like your brother, sir, they believed in something bigger than the things we fight about. And we should remember that. Thank you all, and God bless you.
New York's going to sleep for a week. We don't have to start till next week.
How does it feel after 50 years having your brother honored like this?
It's just, it's amazing that, it's not only this event, there was one in Hopewell too. And it's just, after all those years, it's amazing that they're getting the respect that they deserve.
This shows you that they'll never be forgotten.
Exactly, yeah, definitely.
Thank you.